All right, settle in for a deep dive because today we're tackling a really common frustration, mice in your car.
Yes.
You get in, maybe the car's been sitting a bit, and you notice something, maybe a weird smell
Mhm.
or little signs they've been there.
Yeah, those unwelcome guests turning your ride into their personal timeshare. It
Yeah,
happens a lot.
it really does. And it's more than just annoying, it can actually be a pretty serious problem.
Definitely. We've been looking at an expert assessment today, basically a report focused specifically on getting mice out of vehicles and keeping them out,
So our goal here is to really dig into what this assessment says, pull out the practical stuff, what actually works based on the evidence presented.
and maybe bust a few myths along the way.
Exactly. We want to cut through all the conflicting advice you see online because look, this isn't just about finding a few droppings. The damage can be huge.
Yeah, the report mentioned potential costs for electrical wiring repairs.
Get this, anywhere from like $1,800, maybe up to $5,000 for simpler stuff, but potentially hitting $25,000 if it's really bad.
Wow. Suddenly that little mouse seems a lot less cute.
Right. So, first things first. Why are they even choosing your car? What makes it so attractive?
Well, think about it from a mouse's point of view. Your car is basically a pre-built house. It offers shelter from predators, rain, cold.
Okay, makes sense.
The engine compartment, especially after you've driven, it stays warm for a while, super appealing in cooler
A
weather.
little mouse sauna.
Sort of.
Yeah,
And then there's nesting material. Bits of insulation, seat stuffing, paper napkins you left in the glove box.
guilty.
We all are. Plus food, forgotten snacks, crumbs under the seats, maybe pet food you transport. It's like
Yeah.
a drive-through buffet for them.
Ugh. Okay, so before you're facing that massive repair bill, how do you even know they've moved in? What are the telltale signs?
The most obvious usually are the droppings. They're small, dark, kind of pellet-shaped. You'll find them where the mice are active floors, seats, trunk, maybe near vents.
Not so.
Not at all.
Hmm.
And then there's the smell. Mouse urine has this really distinct, musky, ammonia-like odor. In a confined space like a car, it gets pretty strong pretty fast.
Yeah, that's not the new car smell anyone wants.
Definitely not. Beyond that, look for actual damage. Gnawed wires are a big one. Sometimes they chew off the protective coating.
Why do they do that? Just being destructive.
It's actually because their teeth constantly grow, so they need to gnaw on things to keep them filed down.
Mhm.
Wiring seems to be a favorite.
Okay, what else?
Chewed upholstery, pulled out insulation, shredded paper, or the tissues, basically signs they're building a nest.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if the car's quiet, you might actually hear them little scratching or squeaking sounds.
And the report we looked at is really clear. This isn't just, an ew factor.
Hmm.
There are real risks.
Big risks. That electrical wiring damage is number one. It can cause shorts, dashboard lights to go haywire, engine failure, even fires in worst-case scenarios. That's where those huge repair bills come in. Plus, they can ruin upholstery, tear up insulation, and seriously contaminate your air filters, especially the cabin air filter, which impacts the air you breathe inside the car.
And that brings us to the health risks, which the report really emphasized. Seems like something people might overlook.
Absolutely. Mouse droppings and urine can carry pathogens, things like salmonella, and importantly, hantavirus.
Hantavirus sounds serious.
It is. It's a potentially severe respiratory illness carried by some rodents like deer mice. If droppings dry out in your car, the virus particles can become airborne when disturbed, like during cleaning, or even just from the car's ventilation system.
Yikes, so you could inhale it.
Yes, or get sick from touching contaminated surfaces. The report stressed that dealing with an infestation quickly is really important for your health, not just the car's.
Okay, message received. Problem identified, risks understood. Now, how do we get rid of these furry freeloaders? The assessment laid out a few main strategies, right? Trapping, repellents.
Yep. Trapping, repellents, environmental changes, sometimes poisons used carefully, and professional help. And a key point they made, there's usually no single silver bullet. An integrated approach often works best.
Right. So let's start with trapping. Seems like the most direct method.
It's definitely positioned as a primary way to actually remove mice from the vehicle.
And the good old-fashioned snap trap. Still relevant.
Apparently, yes. The assessment indicated they're widely considered effective and reliable when used correctly. It even quoted someone saying they were the only thing that worked after trying other stuff. Official guidance often backs them up for, well, quick removal.
Okay, what about bait? Is it really cheese like in cartoons?
Huh. Probably not your best bet. Peanut butter is classic. It's sticky, smelly, attractive to them. But the report also mentioned something interesting. cotton balls.
Cotton balls, why?
The theory is mice are always looking for soft nesting material, especially if they're trying to set up shop. So it appeals to that instinct.
Huh. Learn something new. Okay, peanut butter or cotton? Where do you put the traps? Just anywhere.
No, placement is key, according to the experts. Think strategically. Behind or in front of seats, definitely in the trunk, and here's a big one they highlighted. On top of the tires if the car is parked.
On the tires.
Really? Yeah, because tires are often the pathway mice use to climb up into the engine bay or access other parts of the vehicle frame. So put traps along those routes. If it's in a garage, place traps along the walls near the car too.
Tires as mice ladders. Okay. So, pros for snap traps. Quick kill, cheap. Cons, dealing with the aftermath, maybe snapping a finger.
And you absolutely have to remember to remove them before you drive off.
Oh, right. Good point. What about glue traps, those sticky boards?
The report mentioned them, but with some major warnings.
Like what?
Well, first, their stickiness can be reduced by cold or dusk, making them less effective.
Yeah.
But the bigger issue raised was the humane aspect.
Yeah, they don't seem very nice.
They're really not. Mice get stuck and suffer for a long time, struggling, sometimes injuring themselves badly. Many experts and animal welfare groups strongly advise against them, and the assessment reflected that concern. Plus, you might trap something else by accident, or get bitten by a panicked mouse.
Okay, probably best to avoid those then. What about live traps, the ones that catch them alive?
These are basically little boxes that trap the mouse without hurting it. The report suggested they can be effective and are obviously a more humane option, calling them potentially most efficient and compassionate.
Same bait. Peanut butter, cotton.
Yep, same bait, similar placement under seats, trunk, along suspected pathways. Using more than one is a good idea.
And then you let them go.
Yes, but you need to take them far away. The report suggested at least a mile, maybe more, although it did note they can sometimes find their way back even then.
Mile. Wow.
And here's the critical part. You must check live traps very frequently, like daily or even twice daily. A mouse left trapped can die quickly from stress, lack of water, or exposure.
Okay, so humane, but requires diligence and relocation effort. And doesn't stop new ones finding the same way in.
Exactly. That's the downside. Finally, there are electronic kill traps. They use an electric shock.
Are those recommended for cars?
The report didn't find much specific evidence or strong recommendations for using the standard enclosed ones inside the car itself. They were mentioned more generally, or for fancier perimeter systems outside. They offer a quick, contained kill but cost more and need batteries checked.
All right, so trapping is about getting them out. What about making the car less appealing in the first place? Repellents.
Repellents. This is where the report showed a big disconnect between popular advice and expert opinion.
How so?
You hear about all sorts of things, right? Peppermint oil, cayenne pepper, cloves, cedar, dryer sheets, commercial sprays, even predator urine.
Yeah, I've seen lists like that online. People soak cotton balls or spray them around.
Exactly. Very common DIY advice. But the experts consulted for this report were, let's say, highly skeptical.
They don't think they work.
Pretty much. The report quoted someone saying, essentially, I tried everything, none worked. Rodents live in sewers and garbage dumps. They get used to smells. Another expert flatly stated there are basically zero repellents that actually work reliably long-term.
Why not? Peppermint oil smells pretty strong.
The thinking is, their drive for survival, needing shelter, warmth, food, is much stronger than their dislike of a particular smell, especially one they can get used to. If they can handle a dumpster, a bit of mint isn't going to stop them for long.
So that whole peppermint oil trick might just be wishful thinking?
According to this assessment, yeah, largely. And worse, some repellents have downsides. They need constant reapplication. They can make your car smell awful to you. And some oils, including peppermint, can actually damage plastic or rubber parts if applied directly.
Ooh, good warning. What about mothballs? I've heard people mention those.
Big no-no. The report was very clear. Mothballs release toxic fumes harmful to people and pets in enclosed spaces, and using them as an animal repellent is actually illegal. It violates the federal product label instructions. Definitely don't use mothballs in your car.
Okay, scratch mothballs completely. And maybe rethink the essential oils. What about those ultrasonic things, the high-frequency sound emitters?
Another popular product, but again, the report found the scientific backing just isn't there for rodents. Any effect seems temporary at best. Rodents tend to get used to the sound within weeks.
And they wouldn't work well inside a car anyway.
Probably not. High-frequency sound is easily blocked by solid objects like seats, the dashboard, engine parts. So the coverage inside a car would be very limited, likely ineffective based on the report.
Okay, so traps seem more reliable than repellents. What about the heavy artillery poisons, lethal baits?
Poisons or rodenticides can kill mice, yes, but using them in or even around a vehicle requires extreme caution, according to the assessment.
Why is that? Seems straightforward. Put bait out, mouse eats it, problem solved.
If only it were that simple. The placement is absolutely critical. The report stressed. Only use baits outside the vehicle and only inside tamper-resistant bait stations.
Temper resistant.
Yes, locked boxes that let mice in, but keep kids, pets, and other animals out. Place them maybe along the garage wall near the car or securely under the car, like behind a tire.
Yeah.
Never, ever enter the passenger cabin or loose in the engine bay.
Why never inside?
Two huge reasons highlighted. First, secondary poisoning. A pet or a hawk or owl could eat the poisoned mouse and get poisoned itself. It's a major ecological risk.
Okay, that's bad.
Second, specific to the car, is the odor and contamination problem. If a mouse eats poison bait inside your car and then crawls off to die somewhere inaccessible deep in the dashboard, inside a heating vent, under the carpet,
Oh, no.
you will have an absolutely horrific, gag-inducing smell that is incredibly difficult and expensive to locate and remove. Plus, it's a biohazard. The report even mentioned a crazy story where mice moved poison pellets into a truck's heater blower.
They moved the poison.
Yes. And when the driver turned on the heat, the blower ground up the pellets and blew toxic dust right into the cabin air.
That is terrifying. Okay, I'm convinced. Poisons inside the car, a bad idea.
Extremely bad idea. So, if someone feels they absolutely must use them, it's outside only, in proper stations, follow label directions to the letter, wear gloves, and understand the risks involved.
Got it. What about simpler things? Environmental changes? Does parking in the sun help? Honking the horn?
The report touched on those. Heating the car interior, either with sun or the heater, might make it temporarily uncomfortable, but mice can often find cooler spots. Not reliable. Loud noises like honking maybe scares them for a second, but they'll come back. Not a long-term fix.
What about just opening the hood when it's parked in the garage?
That can help make the engine bay less attractive, more exposed, cools down faster. But it only works if you're in a secure garage, obviously, and it doesn't stop them getting into the cabin or trunk.
Seems like prevention is maybe more effective here, like keeping the car clean.
Absolutely critical, the report emphasized this. Regularly vacuuming, removing all food sources, crumbs, wrappers, stray fries, makes your car way less appealing as a food source. Basically, close the mouse diner.
And sealing up entry points. That sounds like a smart long-term strategy.
Essential for prevention. The report recommended carefully inspecting your car for any potential gaps. Check around where the pedals and steering column go through the firewall, any wiring harnesses, air intake vents, damaged door seals.
Where would you look first?
Firewall penetrations are common entry points. Look for any gaps, even small ones. Mice can squeeze through incredibly tiny openings.
And how do you seal them?
Use materials they can't easily chew through. Steel wool is often recommended, though it can rust. Copper mesh is better. You can also use strong, durable tape or even small pieces of aluminum flashing cut to size. Block those holes permanently.
Any other deterrents mentioned, like that special tape?
Yeah, rodent deterrent tape, often treated with capsaicin, the hot stuff from chili peppers. The report mentioned it, but also included a comment from someone who found the common Honda brand tape absolutely worthless. So, effectiveness seems debatable.
What about lights? Or just moving the car more often?
Some suggest putting small LED lights in the engine bay, as mice supposedly avoid light. Again, probably not a standalone solution. Moving the car frequently can disturb nesting, but the report noted one case where a car got infested after just one day of sitting still. So, not foolproof. Parking location matters too. A clean garage is better than parking near tall grass or trash cans, but even garages can have mice.
So most of those are kind of supplementary, not core solutions for an existing problem.
Pretty much. They're more about prevention or making things slightly less inviting.
Okay, let's talk about something the report specifically addressed because someone asked, destructive options like fire? I almost hesitate to ask.
Yeah, let's be absolutely 100% clear on this. Based on the complete lack of support in any credible source, using fire to deal with mice in a car is never, ever, under any circumstances, a valid or safe option.
It's not even considered a pest control method.
Not in any sane or professional context, no.
Right.
The potential consequences are just catastrophic.
Like what?
Total loss of the vehicle, obviously. Extreme risk of severe burns or death for anyone nearby.
Mm.
High probability of the fire spreading to buildings or other vehicles. Huge legal liabilities. You could face charges like arson, plus massive lawsuits.
And it wouldn't even solve the mouse problem generally.
No, it destroys that one car, maybe kills the mice inside it at that exact moment, but does nothing about the overall rodent population in the area. They'll just find another car or building. It's unbelievably dangerous and completely ineffective for the actual goal.
So the bottom line is, don't even think about it. Ever.
Please don't. The fact that someone even asked highlights the desperation people feel, which underscores why getting good information on safe, effective methods is so crucial. And this applies to misusing other dangerous chemicals, too. Stick to approved methods.
Okay, so DIY has its limits. Some ideas are bad, some are dangerous. When should someone just give up and call a professional pest control service?
The report suggests calling pros if the infestation is severe, if it keeps coming back despite your efforts, or if you're just really uncomfortable dealing with it yourself, the cleanup, the potential health risks, figuring out the damage.
Makes sense. DIY might work for a couple of mice, but a real invasion needs backup.
Often, yes. Professionals have the training, experience, and often better tools and sometimes different products to tackle a serious problem systematically.
What do they typically do?
They'll start with a really thorough inspection to figure out how bad it is, where the mice are getting in, and assess any damage. Then, they create a specific plan, maybe using professional-grade traps, possibly exterior bait stations if appropriate and safe for the location. They'll monitor the situation, remove captures, and give you tailored advice on sealing entry points on your specific car model and preventing future issues.
So it's a more comprehensive approach?
Exactly. For tough cases, they often provide that trustworthy answer and a more reliable solution than just trying random things.
All right, let's assume the mice are gone, whether through DIY or pro help. Victory. But wait, the mess remains. The report was big on post-infestation cleanup, right? For health reasons.
Absolutely essential. And you need to do it safely because of those potential pathogens we talked about. Wear protective gear. Disposable gloves are a must, and crucially, a good respirator mask, N95 rated, is recommended to avoid breathing in any dust from droppings or urine.
First step, ventilation.
Yes. Before you start cleaning and stirring things up, open all the car doors and the trunk. Let it air out thoroughly for at least 20-30 minutes.
Then vacuum.
Carefully vacuum up all visible droppings, nesting debris, any leftover food bits. Using a vacuum with a HEPA filter is strongly advised, as it traps microscopic particles, including virus particles, better than standard filters.
Okay, vacuumed, now what? Disinfect.
Yes. You need to disinfect the surfaces where mice were active: seats, carpets, trunk floor, maybe even parts of the engine bay if it's safe to do so. The report recommended a solution of 1 part household bleach to 9 parts water.
Bleach solution. Got it.
Or you can use a commercial disinfectant that specifically says it's effective against pathogens found in rodent waste. Make sure you let the disinfectant sit on the surface for the recommended contact time, usually at least 5 minutes, to actually kill the germs before wiping it up.
And dispose of everything carefully.
Right. Seal dead mice, if any from trapping. Used cleaning cloths, the vacuum bag or canister contents, all in double plastic bags, and get them into an outdoor trash bin immediately.
What about that lingering eau de mouse smell?
Yeah, that can be tough. Activated charcoal or just open boxes of baking soda left in the car overnight can help absorb odors. Some people use ozone generators, but the report advises extreme caution. Ozone irritates the lungs, so the car needs major ventilation afterwards, and no one should be inside during treatment.
Good to know. And you mentioned the ventilation system earlier. That needs special attention.
Definitely. It's a prime hiding spot, and contamination there directly impacts the air you breathe. Clean the vents as best you can, maybe with vacuum attachments or compressed air. But the most critical thing, inspect and replace your cabin air filter.
Replace it, even if it looks okay.
If there's any sign mice have been near the filter housing or in the ventilation system, yes, replace it. It's cheap insurance for your respiratory health. Don't take chances with the air blowing into your face.
That's a really important takeaway. And prevention isn't just a one-off task after cleaning, is it?
Not at all. It's ongoing. Keep the car clean seriously. No more leaving food wrappers or crumbs inside. Periodically recheck those entry points you sealed and make sure they're still secure. Be mindful of where you park, avoid tall grass, overflowing dumpsters, and just do a quick visual inspection now and then, especially if the car sits unused for periods.
So it all comes back to that integrated pest management idea the report talked about.
Cool.
Keep it clean, sanitation, block entry, exclusion, remove any that get in trapping, and make it generally uninviting environmental mods.
Precisely. And always, always read and follow product labels, whether it's traps, cleaners, or anything else. Prioritize the non-toxic preventative stuff first.
And just to hammer it home one last time, fire
Is never the answer. Dangerous, destructive, ineffective for pest control. Absolutely not.
Okay, so mice in the car, definitely a pain, potentially expensive and unhealthy. But as this assessment shows, totally solvable if you're systematic, informed, and maybe a little patient.
Exactly. And don't hesitate to call in professionals if you feel overwhelmed or the problem is just too big for DIY.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How our convenient metal boxes intersect with the natural world, and how sometimes simple things like keeping it clean and sealing tiny holes are our best defense against these persistent little critters.
It's true. Basic maintenance and vigilance go a long way.
Seriously, folks, keep those cars clean, check those seals, and for goodness sake, check your cabin air filter. You might be surprised what you find. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Hopefully this helps you serve an eviction notice to any unwanted furry tenants.